The photograph for me is not just an image. It's not just a carrier of image information, but it's always an object. My work is playing with, on the one hand, this process of how does meaning get into the object, this strange miracle of photography, and of course then what is in the picture, what is the narrative, the social aspects, and they of course are not completely separate. People always see them just as information, what's on them, what's the image. And but for me it is a picture object. And I like to show them this way because I think they are extremely beautiful things as they are. Whereas often they are shown in a window mount, or passepartout, or they are mounted and hidden behind the edges, are hidden behind a frame. But I like to either show them unframed, or when I frame them, I show them as the object hanging inside the frame. Art that touches me most is not expressive in gesture, but I found electronic music, for example, most touching, which other people thought is cold. Or I found mechanically produced art, like silk screens by Andy Warhol or Sigmar Polke, Robert Rauschenberg. When I was a teenager, I saw these, and that's how I felt, well, these are so warm, or they're so interesting. The texture is so interesting, even though it is actually mechanical. And for me, I took this then a step further and thought I don't need to put these pictures onto canvas. I don't need to print or silk screen onto canvas, but the photograph itself, or the photocopy, just a sheet of normal paper, can be transformed into a charged object. Like this idea of charge I like that one moment it's nothing, it's just a piece of paper, and then there is a transformation, and it has meaning. There's something that gets into it. This I made in '97, and it's 56 pictures of the supersonic plane Concorde, all taken in London in different positions underneath the flight path and outside Heathrow Airport. And at the same time, it is also a color field work. It's kind of an abstract work of 56 colors of different shades of blue and yellow, which predates me then moving explicitly into abstraction, like at the end of the 90s. But this idea that a photograph is always two things, like we think this is the sky, but of course it's not the sky. It's blue pigment, blue dyes on paper. These two are photos of my medium, so they are like self-reflective photographs of the camera looking at itself, at its own medium. I like to master my medium to the maximum, but do so with simple means. Like I always use a simple 35mm camera, with a very good lens, but it's nothing crazy, not like a huge camera, or it's just something that, because by it being a normal camera, a normal 35mm film, I find it's closest to how people also see the world, and it's closest to how I see the world. Not everybody sees what this is, no? But this is a sheet of paper photographed from the side, with just the focus on the very edge of the paper. The art is most interesting when it's somehow a coexistence of chance and control, of what I know, what I try to control, and what I can't do. It's always somehow about representing what I see with my eyes, because that's kind of what is the most surreal instrument we have. You know, the world is surreal and crazy and is so interesting, and the act of transforming it in your mind is what is the real work. And here, like, I did not arrange anything in here. This is all found. I mean, I have slept in the bed, so this is kind of, but it wasn't arranged for the photo, and it's like an example of, it's like a standard chain hotel room, you know, like a Holiday Inn Express, exactly. These terrible rooms that look the same all over the world, and every bit of design is kind of awful, you know, like some random abstract art, but at the same time it is a reality. It's somehow how the world looks. I mean, for me, everything needs to make sense, and I kind of, when I walk through here, and this has been a week-long installation until late in the evening, I feel, I test everything. Does this make sense to me? And the viewer should not walk in here and want to understand everything. Unfortunately, people, you know, when they listen to music, they don't think they have to understand everything. But in art, people always feel, I have to get it. No? And if you don't get it, it has no meaning, which is so stupid also. No? Like, when I don't get a book of philosophy, I don't say it's rubbish or it means nothing. But art, everybody thinks they can just say that. I cannot explain everything. You know, I think there is a logic, some kind of personal logic to this, and the connections between the pictures are not linear. You know, you can't read this to that, but you can also. You know, there are some connections. You know, sometimes it's color, sometimes it's texture, sometimes it's composition, sometimes it's content. It's also about free association, how you can, you know, how the mind connects things, and I'm walking a thin line between things being random and they're being exactly precise. I do build models of the places where I exhibit. In the studio in Berlin, I make models 1 to 10 scale, so it's quite big, and I do put all these pictures in there to decide what to take with me. But then when I'm in the space, I respond to it, and I can change my mind also. But it is, you know, it is about each exhibition. I think about the city and the people, what have they seen. It is a mix of what I want and what I think is needed in what I want to show. Like this piece here, I mean, like the room works in two vistas, no? It's like this, but then when you're back there, this wall and the exit wall become one big picture. So if you stand over there, you see this sort of wall becoming one with the other one there. These are photographs as well, but I then thought I'll show the photograph as a sculptural. I mean, these are sculptures, but they are temporary sculptures, and then I photograph them. And here they are
the object itself.
They are the object in themselves, but and which is of course interesting because here they really have become nothing else but themselves. Because normally a photograph is always having the duty to represent something else. And here they say, I'm not representing anything. So I made this photograph in the darkroom with light, with colored light, which is something that I've been doing since sort of 98, that I make photographs but without using a negative, but I then use light sources, different colored light sources. So I'm not making a special secret out of this. Okay. I'm telling you what this is. No? It's light on color paper, and sometimes I fold it in the darkness, and sometimes I fold it afterwards, and sometimes the fold in the darkness creates part of the picture, but they are all doing what photography is meant to do, which is translate light into color on paper. Okay. The very first works I made, like 87, they are 87, 88. Those are those photocopies when I switched from painting and drawing, and where, which is interesting because I've been analog all my life, but I've been always loving digital printing. So this was the first digital photocopy machine. So in some way I've been old-fashioned, always using analog camera, but I also like the noise, the randomness that digital effects can also make. What goes on the surface is sometimes very clearly, has clear reading, but sometimes it's also just dirt, like this is dirt from a processing machine, from my chemicals. This is actually sort of silver from the photochemicals. If one looks carefully, one can see a little bit shine. And this, I don't know what this means. But then again, I don't know what this means. It's, aesthetics are political. Private lives are political. The idea of beauty is never a neutral idea, because people often say, Wolfgang makes beautiful pictures of ordinary things. But it's not just this one-way transfer. It's also extraordinary things that I make look normal, or and this question of what is beautiful is not universal. It is a political question, and so this picture of two guys kissing, some people find that not so beautiful, and I've always wondered, why is it okay to show on television two men kill each other, but not two men kiss each other? That is exactly the question of what is acceptable to show. What do we find acceptable, what do we find beautiful? And this is quite a striking example of that this superficial, the visual, what is actually deeply political. This is from 2011, that's last year, but it is part of a family of still lifes that I've been doing for 20 years. And most of these still lifes are in my studio or place where I live. And so all the objects I somehow brought in as well, but not necessarily placed them for this still life, but they've been collecting there for months and months. And then sometimes I notice, oh, this is actually good. And you can again see this is in one way all somehow controlled by me, but it's not. Okay. It's not like place it all carefully, but then I might change something. The portrait, which there are not so many classical portraits in here, but that's something that I'm always interested in, because that's something that you cannot ever be fully in control of. If you're if you think you're in control of a portrait, it's not right for me, because then you get what you get is a picture of that control. But the relationship between two people in this situation can never be single-handedly controlled. And that's what makes this forever an active undertaking. When you photograph people, it is always about the subconscious, about this mixture again of chance and control. So some of these pictures are staged. Okay. Where they clearly act for me, or we collaborate on creating scenarios. Other pictures are found, or they are a mix between, like for example the picture of the man and the deer. It's on a beach in Long Island, and Jochen and I were feeding the animal, but then there was no more food left, and Jochen was showing like nothing left, and I saw this, that it looked like the antlers, and I said, stop, do this once more, and I just stepped back and took the picture. So it was all exactly how it happened, but I held back time 1 second. So, there is no natural in photography. Everything is always, some aspect is, the decision to make a frame, or to just, but it looks completely staged, but it's actually 100% real. But then again, what is real? No? The color is totally not real. No? Like here, we think we know what this is, but it's actually just some color. No? But the brain thinks, oh, this is a photograph, so it must be a flower. But in fact, it's some sort of, what is this? This ongoing project called Truth Study Center, which I started in 2005 to talk about political things that I was very angry about, like the fundamentalism, the Islamic, the Christian, the all sorts of fundamentalisms, the Iraq war, people denying that HIV is the reason of AIDS, all sorts of crazy ideas where people claim truth. The church, the Pope was saying that condoms do not protect against HIV. So many people saying strange, crazy truths. And so by me saying Truth Study Center, I don't mean that I give you the truth, but it's like, it's always a bit absurd also. This one is a fantastic thing you should point out to people, where the Pope was speaking in Brazil, saying that your forefathers in South America,
Colombian cultures didn't have any value.
And they were waiting for Christianity. Yes. In their hearts, they were actually waiting for the conquistadors. This is Gatwick, London airport, which is on the one hand an abstract composition, and on the other hand it has this sign, rest of world passports, which is this very European point of view. Or this is this border between Mexico and the US in Tijuana, and a couple of small pictures, which is more like a joke from a British Airways plane, where between business class, there are 3 seats in a plane, and in business class, the middle one, they just leave empty, and they put this, say, elbow room, a little extra space reserved for you, Club Europe.
Very special.
Or this is this, Italy has become extremely xenophobic and protective, and it's like this. They have their food and their fetish for their own food, and it's like this border of Sicily. These are like 2 little jokes that actually are both on the table also. And this is another kind of border, how like in private, like a rich baby is protected in a capsule, in a big SUV capsule. It's a funny, absurd object, but also, of course, with it's very much a pressing question of our times, like who can afford to be cooled, and energy, and it's like fascination with form and texture, but of course it's also the craziness of air conditioning and with the headlights also there. It's on the one hand a fascination for optics effects, for lights, and at the same time I observed how car lights, the design of car lights has become so aggressive in recent years. They look like mean. They used to be friendly, cars look nice. And so this is very formal, but there's text, there's politics almost in everything, and there's technology in everything. And then these are also just about this craziness of looking, of this new camera, this new reality of seeing more than what the eye can see. This is called astrocrusto. It just looks like some space alien. So this is, for me, not really about this luxury of lobster, because there are places in the world where people just eat them anyway. But it's like this, the world as a strange place of wonder. And that's kind of what I would like people to see and bring to their own way of looking at the world. That, it's this the strangeness, there's this constant wonder and fascination that is maybe childlike, but an open, but it may be naive, but it's not violent. When people say the world is like this, that's often the first step to violence. Sort of an openness is usually non-violent. Those genes over there, it doesn't matter whose genes they are. So it's when I do work about, when work comes out of my personal world, I still don't want to say this is my world. No, this is my window. It's again about an openness that is still very specific, and that allows you to, you could see this like this, but you don't have to see it like this.